Item 6, Lancaster Park Status Report. Hi.
Hello.
Did you want to make any opening comments?
Look, I'm sure you've all read the report. You've visited the site. I think it's just worthwhile reiterating two key points, and that really is one, the extent of damage to that asset is very significant. The visible ground damage is well documented, but I think what you all saw on the tour of the site was the extent of damage to the above ground assets that suffered very severe shaking, and really the work and testing that has been done has really raised strong question marks about the future seismic capacity of those assets. The second point really is around the costings, and I think from Council's point of view, the cost that is relevant right now is what would it cost to recommission the venue, and that's a whole different ball game to just a cost to repair. That's a cost of reinstating corporate hospitality, it's the cost of replacing services, it's the cost of new lighting, scoreboards, turnstiles, food and beverage services and things like that. So that's the complete cost that Council should consider when it considers this decision. And finally, there's been quite a bit of talk around the $50 million cost, and that really is the cost of repairing the ground. There is still significant cost in the above ground structures that needs to be addressed, and all of the other things that I've just spoken to. So we've had an opinion from Rawlinson's that suggests that it's a $255,000 to $275,000 million investment, and I think that's the guiding information that Council needs to consider. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So the report that's considered, the report that's referred to in item 3A of the staff recommendation, how quickly is that able to come back to us?
In terms of the report on demolition, reasonably quickly. In terms of future options for the land, that is a little bit more complex around the impact of the Vesting Act and the limitations and of that puts on future uses. So I think we would look to get that back to Council probably by March, April, if that was convenient. Okay,
now I'm just looking at this new set of recommendations here, or this proposed council decision here. So we've got 2A, commence immediately to lead a process where Otakaro and Development Christchurch develop a business case for an alternative site, including options for multi-use facility, and report back to council as soon as practicable. How quickly would that likely be able to come back to us?
Sorry, can I just catch up on that recommendation?
Sitting up there, some 2A up there, instruct staff to commence immediately to lead the process with Otakaro and Development Christchurch to develop the business case for the alternative site, including options for a multi-use facility, and report back to council as soon as practical. How long with the business case?
Okay, so full-blown business case for a new stadium I think is a fairly extensive approach. What we would recommend is a two-stage approach, which is probably a strategic assessment and economic assessment with a short list of options, and I think that's probably a 6-month exercise to do that properly in terms of engaging the stakeholders and community to get a very clear understanding of what the needs of the city are. So that's going to lead us to decisions about size of the venue. It's going to lead us to decisions about shape and location, and consideration of a long list of options and reducing those to a short list of options. So I wouldn't want to undersell the extent of work that's got to go into that.
For the Anchor project site, yes. Yeah.
So have we still got, I'm not seeing what comes after what's on here. We've got 2A, B, C, and then have we got 3A as it stood in the original set of recommendations? Staff to prepare a report on options for the demolition of the existing structures and future use. Does that still follow as 3 at the bottom of the page?
You could add 2C to 3A and make it 3A and B, Mr Chairman. That would actually then give you the bits that you need.
Can we might just deal with
2
this.
covers the business case for the new stadium, and 3 covers the demolition report on Lancaster Park and future use.
Yeah,
if
I'm
you wish
hoping
to.
the demolition report can come back to us a lot sooner than the full business case.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what I'm keen to do is, so can we scroll down to 3A?
So we're just saying these are 2 different ones.
Yeah.
That's for the business case for the multi-use arena.
Right, okay.
For this one, and this is the paper that gives you information on demolition and so forth.
So instruct staff to lead a process with Otaka Road Development Christchurch Limited to develop a business case for the alternative site, including options for the multi-use facility and report back to council. So that's the business case about what the future looks
Yeah, that's
like.
right.
So where have we picked up the original wording of staff to prepare a report on options for demolition of the existing structures and future use of Lancaster Park? Where has that fallen? Because that seems to have disappeared.
Yeah, that's right.
So if we
So I
retain
think we've lost
3A,
3A.
and
We need
make
to retain
2C, 3B, that would actually tie everything in nicely.
So A and B are connected.
Yep.
And then you need a C that talks about a more immediate, that's the March paper.
Yep.
That incorporates all those things around potential demolition, timeframes, future use, and you also need some early engagement with the Linwood
Correct.
Central Heskett Community Board, just in terms of what that process might look like and what that paper might look like.
Yeah, so can we reinstate 3A? Let's just work our way through this one step at a time. So if we can reinstate 3A, and then we need to capture the need to engage with the Linwood Central Heathcote Community Board as part of the implementation of 3A.
And just turn that C into a B, and I think you've got it there, Mr Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, now that looks a whole lot better.
And add timeframes into A.
So yeah, so time frame. So 3A then has a time frame of by March 2017.
But also timeframes for all of the future and the process.
Can you do the future use by that time?
Okay, so the 3A.
Engagement.
So 3A is by March. 2A is the one, Peter, that you're saying will take a lot longer than March.
Yeah.
Yeah.
6 months.
Okay, so then 2A, the timeline on that, can we say 6 months?
Yes, please.
2A and the 2B.
And report back to the council within 6 months?
Yes.
Yep, all right, so if we lose the words as soon as practical and put in there within 6 months? That's fine. Well, if that's as soon as possible, then that's what we'll do.
Isn't that work already happening? Like, hasn't it already started?
There's a couple of things, Mr Chairman, potentially. One, under 2A, that is money that in actual fact sits with the Crown at this point in time. We don't have any money on budget for it. I do wonder whether we could keep that. We recognise if we could keep that as soon as possible, preferably within 6 months, would be maybe a better way to do it. I just don't know I can guarantee. The other issue, and I wonder about early engagement, we are in the process of engaging with a number of sporting bodies, other stakeholders, and I wonder whether that 2B becomes request early engagement with all key stakeholders, including the Linwood community. Is that all right? I just...
They're not a key stakeholder. They're actually a local decision maker and a local governance body. So,
yeah.
So
like
request
QE2. They should have they should actually be involved in a lot.
I just think that business case will need a lot of coordination with a lot of key stakeholders, because particularly when you're talking about a multi-use I just look at the sort of number of people we talk to around the town hall, for example, and that's only a small subset of the group that's potentially going to use a multi-use stadium. So there'll be a lot of input required even to get that first stage of that business case.
Okay, so Raf's raising a point of order.
Yeah, just in terms of this is actually in the cost share. So in the cost share by the June 2016, the Crown was supposed to conclude the business case.
Yep.
Around it. So we have to make sure that we're in touch with them. They've got the funding for it to do the business case. So rather than kind of being too detailed about how this engagement thing is going to work, we're going to need to go back to them and get their sign off on it.
So would that speak to, rather than to lead a process, be to work with?
I put something, to develop a business case as per the cost share. I don't know what.
Can we get some advice on that?
I think Raf is right that the more detailed that we are here, there's a risk that we get offside with Otakaro, and as David had said, currently Otakaro have the appropriation to pay for the business case. So I would suggest that we remove the word to lead and rather to have work with Otakaro and DCL to develop a business case for the multi-use facility as per the cost share agreement to be completed as soon as possible.
I'm just reading it.
Okay, great. So let's remove the words then to lead and to add in to work with instead. And that addresses that issue. Yep, great. And then let's come back to 2B, which was the matter that we were discussing. Requested early engagement with the Linwood Central Heathcote Community Board and stakeholders. So not other stakeholders, but just stakeholders as part of the development of the business case. Okay. Right, now let's move to questions. So I've got Sarah and Dave. Sarah.
Yeah.
All right, Dave.
Look, Mike, I support the thrust of where we're going here, but the thing for me that's missing out of this whole equation is a step which clearly indicates our desire not to rebuild on Lancaster Park, and a signal to the stakeholders that we are looking at options other than Lancaster Park, and when that comes to pass, or how you word that in there, I don't know, but there needs to be a message as part of 2B in our engagement with stakeholders that we are committing to something other than Lancaster Park.
So with respect, I would
to
suggest
do
that that's not the decision that we're making today. What we're doing today is requesting the reporting that will then allow us to make that decision once we've got those reports
Well,
in front of us.
for
I
me,
don't believe
that's-
we've got the information to make the decision you're
Yeah,
suggesting we
but
should
for me,
today.
that's a very key part, and are we in preparing the options for demolition coming to that point, or are we coming to that point at a later stage when we are?
I would imagine that
the
once
business
we've got
case.
a report in front of us with options for demolition, there'll be two decisions we make, the first of which will be, do we demolish or do we not? And the second of which will be, what of the options in front of us do we take as the option that we choose for demolition? And inevitably, once we demolish, then clearly we're not repairing. But we don't have the information in front of us today to make the decision that you're suggesting we should make.
So by March 2017, we should be in a position to make that decision?
That would be the intention in calling for that report today.
Okay, so that's the signal that I think needs to be put out, that by March 2017, we may be in a position to make that decision.
Yeah, I mean, what we're doing today is starting a process of which the decision point that you're referring to will be a part of that process.
Well, it's sort of not quite patently obvious, but we just can't say it.
Well,
Again, that's in the cost share. There was an assumption when the cost share was done that the stadium was a write-off,
Yeah.
and a new location was provided for that in the blueprint. So there was no sense that there was ever going to be anything rebuilt on Lancaster
Yeah.
Park.
But what
so
I'm
we're
hearing
working
is
in an
we
environment
can't
where
say
that's the
that
default
till-
position.
We cannot say that till March next year.
Well, at
That's
some
what you're
point
telling me.
we'll make an explicit decision, but we need the information in front of us to make that decision in an informed way. Any further questions? Oh, Andrew, sorry, you've been wanting to say something.
I just need to clarify a point. You know, with Lancaster Park and its Empowerment Act, obviously it's quite constrained in terms of its future use. The previous council approved the Parks Department to go out and consult with the sporting community on the sporting network plan. And so we're heavily engaged with consultation with the sporting fraternity at the moment. I'm just a little bit concerned that looking at Lancaster Park and its future use in isolation may cause quite a lot of concern in the community. And I just wonder if perhaps, well, certainly March, we wouldn't be able to achieve that. We would have to make a decision that Lancaster Park was going to be looked at in isolation to the rest of the sporting park network of Christchurch, the way that potential resolution is put there, and whether or not we should be focused on perhaps just the demolition approach initially.
Bearing in mind the statutory framework that we're working in, though, there may be some that would say it's difficult to have a sensible conversation about demolition without also having a conversation about future use at the same time, given the implications for ownership of the land.
Yes.
And I think that's the reason why we need to join the two together. And it may well be the conversation about future use would be an early conversation at that point with further work to be done, but at least we want to have options for future use put in front of us at that time, because that may, for some, play into the conversation about demolition.
Yes, look, I agree that you can certainly have an early conversation, but to be able to come up with any level of detail about future use by March, I don't think it's achievable, given the conversations that are already going on with the entire sporting fraternity at the moment.
So it may well be that you come back to us with some high-level options, thoughts, things that we might want to consider.
Yep.
And that's the point at which we then start to take a more defined view of what work needs to be done to progress, which of those we think in principle we might be in favour of, and then we appreciate there's a lot of further work to be done at that point, some of which may be ongoing in a wider context anyway.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Aaron.
Yeah, for me there's another part that's potentially missing here, and I say potentially because it's a little odd, is around the other potential uses of the site to be upcycled by someone to use for whatever purpose. Have we gone out and had that discussion with anyone? I know it's currently used for training by police, military, so on and so forth, rescue teams, but there could be umpteen uses for something that we think is completely useless. And if we're an environmentally sustainable council, would that not also be, rather than just looking at demolition, is there anything else it could potentially be used for that we have not considered, that someone else would go, hey, that'd be fantastic as a training facility for demolition engineers, for instance? Who knows?
So the suggestion that the existing buildings in their current state might be of use for some purpose that we haven't thought of yet.
Beyond just the huge cost of pure demolition.
So would
not necessarily selling the site, it could be leased for so many years, it could be all sorts of things, but we haven't looked at that, which would be environmentally more sustainable use of the incredible resources that are there.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a question about what the community's view of that might be, which is a bridge we'd need to cross at that time. Would the report that we're asking for in 3A cover off any use for the buildings as they stand on the site, or any considerations around the sort of things that Aaron's just talked about?
Yes, we can do that, and we can talk about that and the implications for ratepayers.
Yeah, because I mean, my view is there inevitably would need to be a conversation with the community about leaving derelict buildings on site for an extended period. Under the Act anyway, so, but that would get picked up in the report in 3A?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Yanni.
So I thought we were asking for a report on the process for engagement timeframes for next steps around future use, not the actual decision on future use in March 2017, because I don't think there's any way we'll be able to determine that. So
On options for demolition of the existing structures, oh, well, maybe we just need to add the words in then to make it absolutely clear, and options for the future use of Lancaster Park.
Options for demolition of this future use.
yeah, okay. I just think we need to engage around the future use, and it needs to be done at you know, a community level as much as a city level, particularly in that area, because people see it as a community asset. And actually, one of the benefits of that site is the good relationship that the local community had with the stadium being on their doorstep. So, you know, that's a huge positive, and it would be a shame to lose that goodwill. So the other thing I wanted to ask is, I was quite horrified when I went through it to see the number of things that could have been used and they were just left to deteriorate. Have we got a process, or is there a resolution that we can put in here that would enable you to go through the stadium and actually reuse or, you know, just do something around environmental sustainability of not just letting all these good things go to waste? I mean, some of the furniture actually look better than what we have in some of our service centres.
So that would be a conversation for B-Base.
Well, we own B-Base, so...
That's right. Well, I'm suggesting that our councillor directors might actually raise that at the V-Base meeting.
Can we pass a resolution? Because, I mean, I'm surprised V-Base hasn't done that already, to be honest. Like, it was... I mean, I remember 6 years ago, we actually had conversations about reusing and being sustainable when we demolished things.
Yeah.
But...
So if we were to add something in here today to request the V-Base board to consider something, that would be in order?
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's add something.
Report
so
back to council, and I mean, I just want them to get on and do it,
What's
but
their decision?
I think it would be good to get a memo back from V-Base on what steps they can take to reuse, recycle and reduce waste in the stadium.
Certainly any demolition will take that into account. Basically everything comes out, the metal gets stripped out. We know we've got some people that are interested in some of the bigger plant that's in there already, and so if you made a decision to demolish it, you would do it in an environmentally sensitive way, and we've done a whole pile, but I didn't realise it was still full of furniture, and that's
it's not the demolition.
So we'll get V-Base, we can certainly...
And there will be issues in terms of how old some of that equipment is and whether it's actually usable now or not.
So if we think of what this might look like, request V-Base to report back to council on the possibility of reuse or recycling of chattels remaining within the buildings. Chattels and fittings remaining within the buildings.
Yeah. And reducing waste associated with the demolition.
That would come as part of the report on demolition, wouldn't it? Waste and disposal would come as part of the demolition report?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, but I'm certainly happy with 4 to go in there. All right, great. Are there any further questions? Glenn?
Yeah, just one to think about for a while. Back in 2011, between the big earthquake and the Rugby World Cup, you had the decision, you know, for that to be made over the stadium airs, stadium of the game. And at the time, the conclusion was the stadium couldn't be fixed in time. So that carries the assumption that it actually could be. So what, if anything, has changed from then until now?
Well, I think it's fair to say you can fix anything if you throw enough money at it. What we now have is a much better understanding of the extent of the damage, which was not necessarily visible or clearly understood at the time. So now through the work that the consultants have done, we know what the issues are, we know what the damage is, and we now have a fairly good picture of what's involved in the cost of trying to fix it. So we're a lot better informed now.
And there's likely been more damage from the June, December and subsequent aftershocks and simply time.
Quite correct, and I think unfortunately you weren't there to see the damage. It's
No.
when you know what to look for, it's pretty spectacular.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so we've got these resolutions in front of us. I'm happy to move those. Do I have a seconder? Sarah. Is there any debate on this? Yanni.
Look, I think, as local councillor, I think, you know, people will welcome us making decisions. Has been left there for a long time and it has deteriorated. And also, you know, it's a bit of an eyesore at times with graffiti, and we're spending a fortune, or V-Base through council are spending a fortune on the day-to-day security and maintenance. So I think actually getting a decision is really important, and giving some certainty over what's happening. I think it's interesting that we talk about engaging with our sporting groups around the future use. I mean, one idea I had is it not too late to put the Metro Sports there if, you know, we can retain it, because the land's probably about the same quality, and actually it would save us a huge amount of money as taxpayers and ratepayers and citizens, but maybe that boat has sailed. But it just seems to me that this is a tremendous asset for the city in the past. It is an important local asset as much as a strategic asset for the city.
Did you start the debate?
Phillipstown and Charleston have lost so much. They've lost their school, they've lost the post office, they've lost a lot of other buildings. So it's really important what we do here, that it does give back to the community in the way that Lancaster Park did. So, but I think it's good that we're getting progress on this issue. And the final point is that we absolutely should be taking a waste minimisation, reduce, reuse, recycle approach to our assets. And so I think it's really important that we ask V-Base to do that work as soon as possible.
You've got to speak now.
So Yanni was the only one who indicated he would speak so far.
Right. Does anyone else want to speak to this? Glenn?
Thank you. This will be a big piece of work for the council this term. It most likely has got to this point where we can't avoid it, but we haven't been able to actually approach it until the insurance resolution. I support Yanni's push that the board is taken on board, not actually through the QE2 President Yanni, but actually through the President, of the fact that they were there all along over being neighbours to Lancaster Park and that integration with the community. So I think that's important. Also support a good process that isn't over-rushed. This is huge, and we need to go in with our eyes open. You will note, for instance, a covered stadium won't guarantee anything. The Lions tour this year, 2 games will be played in a temporary stadium here in next year, rather, here in Christchurch and in Dunedin. A covered stadium didn't guarantee them a test. The 3 tests went to uncovered stadiums, 2 in Eden Park, 1 Wellington. So please, let's have our eyes open. It will be a big decision to get to, but I think the process is key. I'm really pleased we've got we've reinstated that demolitions option, because that in itself, if you take the steps out of a ladder, you'll come to grief. So it's important we just take this quietly and get it right.
Aaron?
Yeah, I'd just like to briefly follow up on Yanni's point about the recycling, upcycling, and would like to suggest putting the entire complex on Trade Me at $1 reserve must collect.
No one else? I came in late, so I do apologise, but there is just one thing that I wanted to say, because I guess having come in as the Mayor in the last term, it was incredibly frustrating to see how little progress had been made in terms of our insurance settlement. And there's no secret around the fact that Lancaster Park was one of the enormous hurdles to obtaining a settlement. And when I read the Rawlinson's report, I have to say I did see red when it confirmed for me that they could completely dismiss some of the reports that were prepared off a desktop bench, I would suggest, by the reinsurers that had no substance whatsoever in terms of putting it out there that we could repair this stadium to a standard that would be acceptable to our city for $50 million. It was just outrageous that they were presenting that, and now we have a report that makes it crystal clear that the cost of recommissioning Lancaster Park as a venue capable of hosting Tier 1 World Rugby Test matches is in the order of $255 to $275 million. One of the statements that was made when we went for our tour around Lancaster Park last week that really stuck in my mind was that if you were looking at the $50 million, you'd be lucky that that was the cost of reinstating the foundations, which I might say the reinsurers never accepted as foundations for the building, because they were concrete columns in the ground. I don't know the difference between concrete columns in the ground and foundations. When you have to build on them, they are foundations, and they are accepted as foundations, but not by our reinsurers. And so this, and the point that was made was that you could actually end up with a situation where where you wouldn't get a firm price on purely the reinstatement of the foundations, you couldn't even guarantee that that would be $50 million, because what you would probably get is that's our best estimate, and you just keep sending the cheques and we'll keep doing the work. And that really hammered home to me the futility of trying to recommission Lancaster Park. So I think we're accepting here today that that we're not going to be recommissioning Lancaster Park as a venue. We are going to proceed to develop work on the alternative site, and also develop options for the demolition and options for future use, and a process for engagement and timeframes for the next steps. And I think that's a really good outcome from today's debate. I apologise that I wasn't here for most of it, but I think we've got a really good outcome. So on that basis, I'll put that motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Thank you very much.